welcome to Algebra 1. Today we're going to be doing lesson 14.10, which is more work with word problems. So we've already done some word problems when it comes to quadratic equations, and today we're just going to do a little bit more work with them, just to make sure that we definitely understand what we're doing. So let's look at some of the examples that they've given us. So if the sum of two numbers is 8 and the product is 15, we need to find the numbers. So we're going to want n to be equal one number, and 8 minus n to equal the other, as the sum of the two numbers is going to be 8, which means if we're finding the two numbers, we want to take 8 and subtract n in order to figure out what it is. The product is going to be 15, which means that, and product means we're multiplying, so 8 minus n times n is going to equal 15. So now the first thing we can do is we can go ahead and multiply n into 8 minus n, which will give us 8n minus n squared equal to 15. And from here we can start to see the quadratic equation starting to form, and we're starting to get to a place where we're able to solve it. So now we're going to add 15 to both sides, and we're going to rearrange it so that it fits into our quadratic form. So n squared minus 8n plus 15 is equal to 0. And from here we can start to expand it. And we know that both can be negatives because we have a negative and a positive. Now, what multiplied together will get us 15, but added will get us 8, 3, and 5. Getting ahead of myself here. So then we have n minus 3 equals 0, and n minus 5 equals 0, or n equals 3, n equals 5. And we check this so that means 8 minus n is going to equal 5 or 3, and n is going to equal 5 or 3. Okay? Let's go on to our next example. A fleet of destroyers is crewed by 4,000 sailors, and the number of sailors on each vessel is 40 less than 8 times the number of destroyers in the fleet. We need to find the number of destroyers and the number of sailors aboard each fleet. So n is going to equal the number of destroyers, 8n minus 40 is going to equal the number of sailors, and then n times 8n minus 40 is going to equal, this is per destroyer, and this is going to be the sailors on the fleet. So then we know that n times 8n minus 40 is going to equal 4,000. So from here we can start moving things around. So we can go ahead and subtract 4,000 from both sides and multiply n into all of this, or n into 8n minus 40. So that will leave us with 8n squared minus 40n minus 4,000 is equal to 0. And from here we can start reducing this to a place where it's easier to work with, because right now these are quite big numbers. But if we see, they're all divisible by 2. They're also all divisible by 8. So if we were to divide 8 out of all of this, divide both sides by 8, we would end up with n squared minus 5n minus 500, which is equal to 0. And those numbers are a little bit easier to manage, and thus they're going to be easier to work with in the long run. So from here we can start to unfoil it, and we have a positive and a negative, and then 25 and 20 will work. So then we have n minus 25 is equal to 0, so n equals 25. We also have n plus 20 equals 0, so n equals negative 20. So from here, we're going to need to plug these numbers back in to start figuring this out. So 8n minus 40, well, 8 times 25 or times negative 20 could get us 160 or negative 200. And so that's the way we're going to start solving these equations. So the second value of n and of 8n minus 40 are evidently inadmissible, since neither the number of ships nor the number of sailors on a ship can be negative. Therefore, there are 25 destroyers and 160 sailors on each. You want to think about this logically. Can you have negative 20 sailors on a ship? No, you can't. Zombies are not real. But you can have 25 sailors on a ship. Therefore, it's more reasonable that we have 25, not negative 20. Let's do one of your equations. We'll do number 2. So if 25 is added to the square of a certain number, the sum is equal to the square of 13. What is 13, sorry. What is the number? So if 25 is added to a certain number, so we're going to already know we're going to add it. The sum is equal to the square of 13. So if this is a square, then odds are this x is squared as well. So then what we can do is we can go, well, what is 13 squared? 13 squared is going to be 169. And then we can subtract 25 from both sides to get x squared is equal to 144. And here's where why we needed this to be squared, because we're going to square root both sides. So we need to figure out what the square of it is. So this is going to be a positive or negative 12. And there's our answers. So remember, we're thinking logically, but we also need to remember what we know and build upon it and use our context clues. This is where your reading skills really come in handy when you're solving word problems. So take it slow, remember your basics, go back to your building blocks, and build on. That's the whole point of math, is to build on. Alright, for classwork today you have 1, 2, and 4. And for homework, you have 3, 5, you have 3, 5, and 6. Alright? So, start with your basics and build on. This is one of your last lessons for Unit 14. The next couple are going to be review lessons and things. There won't always be a video for your review lessons. However, you're always welcome to leave a comment down below and I can either make a video for you, or I do tutoring on Tutor Ocean, which I will leave the link to that in the description below. It's also on my profile, and I'm always willing to help you there. Well, that's it. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.